Hello folks, welcome to the Exiled Minds Podcast. I'm your host Liam Martin. We've had a lovely day. Today we've got an episode number 8 today, and we've got an episode. We're going to have a mystery excursion into a well-known place and most well-known geological features on Earth, big tourist attraction for people all over the world, and that's the famous Grand Canyon. And have a look into this today. There's some perhaps not so well-known things about the Grand Canyon that I want to share today and have a look into. Some mysteries surrounding the old GC area. So Grand Canyon we'll explore today in the Exiled Minds Podcast. So to start with then, so the Grand Canyon, I mean, okay, it's well-known. People have heard of it. Yeah. Grand Canyon National Park, Arizona, 277 miles, sort of 444 square kilometers. Colorado River, adjacent to the uplands. Big place, people have heard of it. Massive big canyon. Okay. But the mysteries of it. See, there's rumored that there's been stuff been found there. I mean, it's come up here and there through time, but it goes back to as far as the sort of, well, the 1900s, really, the very beginning, 1909. Okay, there was well, we'll get into the story. We'll get into it. I've got some articles to share with you. I've got some images as well. Remember to share the screen. So, try and stand to our things. But yeah, let's get going then. So, start with, got the Grand Canyon Temple Mystery. So this is what it's about. It's about stuff may or may not have been found there, but there's some really interesting things surrounding all of this, and it kind of sprawls out to lots of little segues and little connections to other stuff. It just gets more and more curious. So I'll share that today. So the basic premise is the Grand Canyon Temple Mystery, where the Grand Canyon is a cave mystery. There's caves all over the place there. Okay. So we'll look into sort of geology a little bit and see what's going on with the whole region and how it kind of fits in with America and history. So, okay, so it starts with two men make a discovery. Allegedly, sort of, at this point, we'll see. Okay, so there's Professor S.A. Jordan and an explorer, G.E. Kincaid. Okay, so in the original newspaper article, which is you can still sort of see in archives. So, I'll share the screen here. We'll get a little picture of the original newspaper article. But I say, as always, I put the links in the description so you can go and check this stuff out yourself. And there's a better sort of image of the original, but I've got write-ups and stuff. So, yeah. Right. But yeah, links in the description if you want to check any of these things out. I'll always put what I've read up there and what I've discovered, sort of thing, so you can follow the trail, find a few other things out for yourself that perhaps couldn't fit in. That's what it's all about. So, okay, from the original article, I can't really read it, but I've got it on screen. But yeah, I'll read this to you. It says, the latest news in the progress of explorations of what is now regarded as scientists as not only the oldest archaeological discovery in the United States, but one of the most valuable in the world. It was mentioned some time ago in the Gazette and was brought to the city yesterday by G. Kincaid, the explorer who found the great underground citadel of the Grand Canyon. Okay, great underground citadel of the Grand Canyon during a trip from Green River, Wyoming, down the Colorado River in a wooden boat to Yuma, going to Yuma 7 months ago. So is travelling from the Green River, Wyoming, down the Colorado River in a wooden boat to Yuma. And yeah, and they say they've already reported on it in this newspaper, which is the Arizona Gazette, the Friday evening edition. So they're following up on the story basically. Oh yeah, I've told you about this guy, I thought we made a discovery, gone back, brought some stuff, told us about it. So they're printing it, right? Now I've seen articles looking into this where people are just sort of saying it's a bunch of rubbish and all made up, like straight away kind of thing. Not really looking into it, I don't think, because if you do start looking into it, this gets strange. It gets a bit strange. So there is a bit of a trail to follow, some breadcrumbs to follow. So let's see. I mean, look at the time period as well, 1989. I'm not sure if people were, you're going to sensationalize things. Sometimes you get the snake oil salesman stuff, but I think in that time period in journalism, there's journalistic integrity. Kind of, do you know what I'm saying? I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, who knows? You can say that about anything, can't you? They're just making stuff up all the time. But, it's in the papers, printed it, and there's people involved, but we'll go through the story. So the discovery is that under the direction of Professor S.A. Jordan, the Smithsonian Institute is now going through with more explorations, which will lead to continued last link in the chain. We'll keep on continuing until the last link in the chain is forged, nearly a mile underground, about 1,480 feet below the surface. The long main passage was delved into to find another mammoth chamber from which radiates scores of passageways like spokes of a wheel. So I've got a little map of that, luckily. Find a nice map there. So they're saying, you can see that they're saying there's a long passage then leads to a mammoth chamber radiating out passageways in sort of all directions, as if like spokes on a wheel, so you've got this big circular bit in the middle, got a chamber that goes in and all the way in, like a long road to it, and then a circle that goes out to loads of other directions. I think, okay, that looks pretty cool. So it says, continuing with the discovery, several hundred rooms have been discovered, reached by passageways running from the main passage. Okay, that's like going straight down. One of them having been explored for 854 feet and another was explored for 634 feet. The recent finds include articles, meaning artifacts, which are never known before as native to this country, and doubtless they have origins in the Orient. Okay, so they're saying they found stuff that seem Oriental. War weapons, copper instruments, sharp-edged and hard as steel, like weapons and tools and stuff, indicating a high state of civilization reached by these strange people, whoever they were, sort of thing. So it says that scientists have been really interested in the preparations that's coming up, and getting equipment to the camp. They want to do some extensive studies. So they said they was hoping to get like a team there, a party of like 30 to 40 people, which are really serious about this. But and they were saying, the Smithsonian's really excited about sort of getting a team there and really studying it. Okay, so, but this place where they're supposed to have found it, it's on Navajo land, so that's hard to investigate these days. You kind of can't go there, kind of. It's supposed to be kind of like security. There's certain areas that's off limits anyway to the public. It can be dangerous or whatever, but maybe for other reasons. So, but yeah, it's on Navajo land anyway, so it's hard for people to investigate in modern times. The cavern's supposed to be nearly completely inaccessible. Entrance is like nearly 1,500 meters down a sheer cliff wall, and if it's been really, really hot as well, which it is, Arizona desert, it's been hot all day, and there's like rock, and you go in between two big, massive bits of rock that's been baked in the sun all day. It's probably going to get hotter and hotter as you go in, like an oven, I would imagine. So it's probably, it's hard. It's going to be a tough one. But yeah, that's what I've heard before about people trying to get down there, and it's like that, like an oven. So it's really hot both sides, which it would be. It'd be like going in a Dutch oven, sort of thing. But yeah, it's located on government. I think it's some government, like government land. Like I say, you can't get on there, so the visitors aren't going to be allowed. At the time, they were saying archaeology people that was like looking into it were afraid of people coming trying to rob it, for like just getting curious things to have a look or looking for relics. But they were saying that they found Egyptian and or Buddhist like relics in there, pure gold artifacts for an Egyptian king, King Cahuilla. The relic that was holding a lotus flower in both hands. There's a flower saying it was like that's native to Egypt. I'm not sure if it's meaning the flower is, or having a lotus in your hand is a native thing that Egyptians did. But yeah, it says that was discovered at the Cross Tunnel, and it says discovering that the Cross Tunnel as a shrine is the same as identical kind of layout as the Valley of the Kings. having a kind of shrine there at the cross tunnel. So that was interesting. Maybe there's a link there to that, but anyway, we'll carry on. It says it was, so there's a golden tablet supposedly discovered. So, I'm not really sure. I'll put a picture on the screen. That's supposedly some of the artifacts that ultimately were recovered. Okay, but not really, it's really difficult to verify where these things are. So exactly what's happened to them, But yeah, there's one more as well. It's like a kind of scroll tablet thing, which is supposed to be this history of this Egyptian king Kayan, or was known as Cain or Kayan. And he's said to be his king is said to be like a descendant of someone called Zaphenath. Okay, Zaphenath. And that Zaphenath is supposedly possibly could be Joseph from the Bible. So there's a tablet to a king that might be a descendant of Joseph, an Egyptian king, it seems. So, okay, the story goes on. In describing what it looks like inside there's quite an in-depth description on some of these articles I found, so let's have a look. In the passageways, it says the main passage is about 12 feet wide, narrowing to 9 feet towards the further end. About 57 feet from the entrance, the first side passages start branching off right and left, along which both sides are numbers of rooms about the size of ordinary living rooms today, though some of them about 30 to 40 square feet. They are entered by oval-shaped doors that are ventilated by round air spaces through the walls into the passages. The walls are about, it says 3 feet 6 inch thick. A bit precise. I've really measured it all up. 3 feet 6 inch thick walls. Passages are chiselled or hewn as straight as could be laid out by an engineer. The ceilings, many of the rooms are coverage to a centre. The side passages near the entrance run at sharp angles from the main hall, but towards the rear they gradually reach a tight angle in direction. There's a shrine, it says over 100 feet from the entrance is the cross hall, several hundred feet along, in which we found an idol or an image of the people's god sitting cross-legged with a lotus flower or lily in each hand. The cast of the face is oriental. The carving in this cavern, it seems like the idol resembles Buddha. The scientists are not certain as to whether the religious worship it represents. Taking into consideration everything found thus far, it is possible that the worshippers resembles the ancient people of Tibet. So that was what it was about, is an image, like a computer image somebody's made to make it. So I'll see what it might have looked like on screen there. Yeah, so it's crazy. It's supposed to find hieroglyphs there as well. So this was what the rumours were, and they said there was a crypt as well. So this the tomb or crypt in which mummies were found is one of the largest of the chambers, the walls slanting back at an angle of about 35 degrees. On these are tiers of mummies, each one occupying a separate hewn or shelf. At the head of each is a small bench, on which is found copper cups, pieces of broken swords. Some of the mummies are covered with clay and all wrapped in a dark fabric. The urns or cups on the lower tiers are crude, while as the higher shelves are reached, the urns are finer in design, showing a later stage of civilization. It is worthy of note that all the mummies examined so far have proved to be male. No children or females are buried here. So that's quite interesting. So someone's put I've got some computer generated images here by Jack Andrews on this website, so I'll put a link in the description, but you can check these out. He's done a nice little write-up on it. So who knows, right? But let's see where else it goes in. So there's this so we've got this professor and we've got this explorer, G.E. Kincaid, and he's a mineral hunter. He used to run in the river in Colorado. People used to do that to like get famous and stuff, but you can run the river to, you know, use it to get down, to try and follow it to find minerals and sort of try and find gold. Okay, so some people used to do it low key, you know, because they don't necessarily want people to know if you find some precious minerals. Okay, so that's where it sort of comes from. So you got these two guys in this area, but I mean that the Hopi are sort of in this area as well. Okay, and they've got a connection to this story. It's notable among the Hopi and their traditions that their ancestors once lived in an underworld in the Grand Canyon. Okay, so you've got these underground pastures, and ties in with the Hopi, and it says that they've come about, the Hopi have come back because they've arose from between the underworld of the Grand Canyon. It says the people of one heart and the people of two hearts used to live down there. And it says Machete, who was the chief, counseled them to leave the underworld, but there was no way out. So the chief caused a tree to grow, piercing the roof of the underworld, and then the people of one heart climbed out. You know, they tarried by Passisavir, Red River. So they went by Red River, which is the Colorado River, and grew grain and corn. Okay, they sent out messages to the Temple of the Sun asking the blessing of peace and good rain for the people of one heart, and the messengers never returned. But today the Hopi villagers at the sundown can be seen an old man of the tribe of one of the housetops gazing into the sun looking for the messenger. When he returns to their lands, the ancient dwelling place will be restored to them, and that is the tradition. Among the engravings of animals in the cave is seen images of a heart over the spot where it's located. The legend was learned by W.E. Rollins, the artist, during his years spent with the Hopi Indians. Okay, so then there's two theories of the ancient origins of the Egyptians. One is that they came from Asia. Another racial cradle was the Upper Nile. It says here in the Egyptiologists believe that the Indian origin of, you know, so it's like, well, Indian origin of Egyptians, or is it what we're talking here? You know, so it's like, well, the discoveries in the Grand Canyon there might be something really strange here. And there was a guy that, I mean, the Hopi have also got this thing of like the Snake Brothers as well. I'll put an image of that. You know, get this link up. There's the Snake Brothers, and you know, someone's supposed to have found I just found this footage. It's funny, I just threw this in there years ago. I never seen this, but it's supposed to be like this. I'll describe it for those of you who can't see on the image. It's supposed to be. It says reptilian conspiracy tracking down the mysterious fossilized remains of ancient dragon man. If you look at the picture, it's just like some bones, but it kind of looks like the spine. It's got like lumpy bits, almost like scaly bits, and it looks like it's got a bit of a tail on it. You know, it looks like it's going to be quite a substantial tail. It's crazy, man. I just thought it was this random funny little tie-in there. But yeah, it's just nuts. But yeah, with the Hopi stuff, I'll just put that image. Yeah, with the Hopi stuff, I mean, not only is it, you've got these Ant-Men people as well that are supposed to be. Also, we can get a picture of the Ant-Men as well. Yeah, I've got the Ant-Men of the underworld. That's in the Hopi legend, and the Snake Brothers, the reptile. So it's like, okay, you've got this underworld stuff, and then we find these possible underground tunnels. Kind of tie in, but then there was a guy called Seth Tanner, who was a Mormon pioneer in the mid to late 1800s, and he basically, because he's a Mormon, he had more than one wife, right? And and one of his wives was a Hopi, and he got to see where this place was, where they're supposed to come out of the ground, right? And so when the Hopi people, like chiefs, found out that he knew where it was, or he'd seen it or been in there, the same for this crime, they had to take his sight. So they put this powder in his eyes. It turned them clouded and made him blind. And he was told that was done so it would forget what he'd seen, and that if he ever spoke of it to anyone, they would take his tongue. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like some really serious stuff. But it's almost like maybe somebody did say something because, story got out. But, it's a fifth generation trading company, still stands today. They're operated by the descendants. It's like the Hopi. It's like the Hopi kind of hold the knowledge. It's really, really important to them. It's like they're preserving the history and the relics, and I think that's what they do, or hide stuff and whatnot. But but I mean, the media poo-pooed it. They said I was making it up. It was all a big hoax, And there's been other kind of stories of like thunderbirds and stuff at the time, and giant axes and things that you can see in the newspapers and the archives. You can see this stuff. It's still there now, like the microfilm pictures and stuff. So I mean, but you get what at the time is, I suppose you still get it these days. You get them like the dirtier the waters, and they call it yellow journalism. So you get these amazing sort of stories, and they call it at that time. They even called it yellow journalism. So there are many stories of amazing, unrivaled stories being printed across Western US at the time. Stories including those of the little people in Mount Shasta, the Thunderbirds, like I say. There's in the 1934 account of a secret lizard city underneath Los Angeles. Do you know what I'm saying? But obviously some of this stuff's going to be real, and misinformation, smear campaigns, obviously that's nothing new to us these days, is it? So I suppose that that could happen, but we'll carry on. So in this article then by Stephen Mello, he's done a bit of research into this actually, and he said there's another interesting thing. He said he's got an interest into this. Reading his articles, there was another story about this coming from a completely different source. This guy called Kinnaman. Okay, and he explains he first heard about this Grand Canyon Mystery Temple stuff, maybe they found things, by this Dr. John Ora Kinnaman, and because he'd come across this tape, he acquired this tape, 1979, and it was talking about there would be some caves that's been explored, that there was talking about the sounds very similar. And this Dr. Kinnaman, he said he heard him first in 1979, and it was like a great archaeologist, and there was another great archaeologist called Petrie, and they were both Masons, and they seemed to know each other, looking through the history, and he found some in talking to like a private group. That's what his tape was. He was talking to a private group, like the country club people, the sort of Mason groups and that. So he's talking in private, okay, and then with this Petrie guy. So it's like, okay, so let's see what the deal is. I mean, what they were saying was that they were saying, this is why this guy's got interested in it, is this Stephen Mailer is writing these articles, so we got some of this stuff. He says, in a private recording in a home in Northern California around 1955, there was a talk with Dr. Kinnaman. And Dr. Kinnaman begins with a normal discussion of his work with Sir Flinders and just a general factual lecture, okay, on the dimensions of the pyramids and stuff. And after a while, he casually mentions that he and Petrie discovered a secret entrance into a pyramid on the south face, quite by accident. It says, the traditionally accepted entrance is one on the north face. It says Dr. Kinnaman then describes several interior chambers in which are found ancient records from Atlantis and anti-gravitational machines, and that they were used by Atlanteans to construct the Great Pyramids. And furthermore, Dr. Kinnaman declared that the manuscripts they found stated that the Great Pyramid was built over 35,000 years ago. And it was never intended to be a tomb for a king. And that, and the guy Stephen Mello said he had that tape and got it. Says, he's definitely, says for real, that he heard it, and why not, right? Not surprised to me. But what was this Kinnaman guy? What's this doctor's talking? These two famed archaeologists. It's like these scientists seem to be talking about some amazing discovery there as well, to do with Egypt and whatnot. So I don't know. So looking through this stuff and looking into this story, it seems like people really were really trying to find this place, and it was a big mystery, So, and obviously the Hopi, there seemed to be something going on with them. I don't know, it's a bit of a weird link. And the naming of the places, they're called like a Buddha's cloister, Buddha's temple, Manu, all the like little features in the area, Manu temple, Shiva temple. Okay. But so naming them after these sorts of things, like Cheops, which is a pyramid, also calling them things Brahma and Rama and Babylon cave and Isis temple. It makes you wonder, is that a hint? Is that a hint to stuff? But then people did often, name these things. And, I found on the website Ancient-Origins, they were saying that it's noteworthy that the name of the landmarks remains difficult to research to whose job it was to name them, so why they name these things. However, it must have occurred that the most obvious person might be General John Wesley Powell. Okay, General John Wesley Powell. He was well funded. He was funded by the government to sort of pass through the Grand Canyon during a 1869 Powell geographical expedition. Okay, so was also the first director of Smithsonian's Bureau of Anthropology, founding member of the National Geographic Society, and a member of the Cosmos Club. So this Powell guy. Okay, so this Powell guy, he was the guy who hired the Kincaid in the first place. It seems to go and find something, and he's come across this cave. He says he's looking for minerals, but just find some other stuff where it says that he always ended up being hired to go and look at this cave. So maybe it was after he'd already talked about it and mentioned it. His Powell guys, and he would be maybe it was like a benefactor for him. And the other point is that and he knew he was friends with a Hopi guy as well, that Powell. So John Wesley Powell, he was also he was friends with a native. I don't know what tribe he was from. He was friends with a native who's named Jacob Vernon Hamblin. So I'll get a picture of the two of them actually. So so these two, John Wesley Powell and the native Jacob Vernon Hamlin, they were like kind of partners. So this guy with the big moustache, I think he hired this Kincaid, this mineral guy it was in the 1909 newspaper saying that he's found this place and found this stuff, and he's the same guy that, do you know something? I think he was. People are saying, this article from Ancient Codes saying basically he's the guy that's naming all these places, all these Egyptian stuff. But then at the same time, there's another guy, Clarence Dutton, who's was kind of linked into all this, and he was from Yale University in 1860. He was one of those company guy, secret society people. This Dutton guy, he was known as a polymath, who's a really kind of smart guy and into one of the upper echelon archaeology people. He was quite fond of societies, and again, where there was no proof of his connection to Freemasonry, he was as a member of all the kind of societies that they sort of roll with. He had a fondness for brotherhood and would not have many friends who were free. He didn't have many friends who weren't Freemasons, sort of thing. Pretty much all his friends a lot of his friends are Freemasons, so it's like they're all kind of linking together. And his Yale, it's a Skull and Bones Society started there, and that was formed around 1832. So that was already started by then. So he's probably a Skull and Bones guy in the Masons, trying not to be, But yeah, so there's this Dutton character and this Powell character that are naming these places by Egyptian names as well, and they're on the old secret society business. So but the Smithsonian are saying that it gets poo-pooed, this story, because Smithsonian said there's no absolute nothing to this. They've got no record of it, this, that, and the other. But I hate to say it, but the Smithsonian do lose stuff a lot all the time, and I'm not just saying that. It's not just my opinion. There's been stuff about it before, but I can give you one example just now. So links will be in the description, but they have done stuff in the Stonewatch newsletter of Gunbury Wap Society in Connecticut, which researches megalithic sites in New England. Had a curious story in a winter 1992 issue, volume 10, number 3, in which some stone coffins discovered 1892 in Alabama were sent to the Smithsonian Institute and then lost. So a link will be in the description for that. But yeah, they've been caught losing things somehow. So yeah. But yeah, moving on with the Kinnaman story. So you got this doctor, I got this recording of this doctor doing his private talk with this guy called Petrie, was top archaeologist and stuff, and they're talking about they found all this crazy stuff, you know. So it's like, so the hobnobbing with all this secret society stuff. So this crazy claim of a discovery, it looks like it might be one of them things where they've just got rid of it out the records. And I suppose in those days it's a lot easier. You just got to, you know, threaten a newspaper not to print something again. There's only been a few copies. There's only one record of it. It's only from one source. You know, can't get rid of all of them because it looks suspect. But there's only one source in history for it. Kind of lock it down, sort of thing. And then with the reservation lands coming in and stuff, it makes it harder. You know, you can't just go on these places, can you? So because it's sacred ground to like the Hopi and these tribes, but it's weird, man. But interestingly enough, there's other strange discoveries of a similar kind of nature in terms of like these city things. There's an underground city in Missouri supposed to have been discovered. They've got an article about that as well. So it was like, I thought that was a bit kind of weird. But yeah, there's a Missouri lost city in the Curious 14. So I mean, supposedly some people found some lost cities in the Missouri as well. Okay, and they put they found some doors that had rotted, but there was clearly there's only a small portion left, but it's clearly they're off of like really big doorways and stuff. And so yeah, I mean, so okay, there might be some city under there. It says things were crumbling, but tools were found on benches, handles. It says, I remember it was saying here that they found numerous tools and stuff, and saying they weren't super advanced, but they were okay. They're alright, you know. It says it's fashioned by master mechanics, sort of thing. So it's like the one saying, "Oh yeah, super duper alien plasma laser lightsaber stuff," but it's saying, yeah, there's some good tools in there. So under Missouri, but the one interesting thing, as they was about to leave, just checking out, found some decent workmanship tools, this, that and the other, and some stuff that, you know, they could do better, sort of thing. But saying a decent advanced civilization. But then they found, as they was leaving, they found this fountain was located what evidently seems like a large court of a very wide street. It says from it was a stream of water flowed into a large stone basin. It says there was a skeleton there, right? And it said its femur measured 4.5 feet. Its femur being like your thigh bone, and the tibia 4 feet and 3 inches, showing that the creature, whatever it was when alive, must have been endowed with both muscular power and quick action. The skeleton is about 3 times as large as that of an average man. Okay, so here's someone that's gone in. I mean, that's just, I don't know. What? It's like some underground city in Missouri, and they found some really large people. You know, that kind of area's got like a pyramid, what they call a mound, and that. But yeah, they've got kind of pyramids around that area as well. And this area where these things are sort of named like Buddha and Rama, and they've got Cheops and Isis temple and stuff. They've got these features around the Grand Canyon area that are named these Egyptian things, and they kind of look like pyramids. They kind of look like stuff, even though they're like they're geological features, or supposedly they kind of look like things. But if they're 35,000 years old, maybe they've really worn away a lot. you know. So I don't know how that works, man. But yeah, it's claiming there's a giant bones found under Missouri. But yeah, the links will be in the description. But yeah, anyway, moving on. There's another. I mean, they said that there's a follow-up story to this one as well. We're supposed to find these relics, find these tools and that. You know, saying there's tomahawks, scimitars, stone chairs, medicinal mortars, relics of ancient kind of milling and grain stuff. Yeah, and loads of little bits and bobs. So I don't know, man. But one other little strange tie-in is that this one gets really strange. But is that I didn't know to skip this. It's a bit weird, but I'll throw it in. Is that amateur archaeologist who claimed that he'd found a trove of artifacts, but then Russell Burrow, he reckoned he'd find this cave as well and stumbled on a load of stuff. But that seemed like a bit of a I think that might have been a bit of a psyop, because a couple of people this guy from a magazine offers to fund him to try and from Ancient American magazine, a guy called Wayne May, the founder of that. He convinces Russell to help him go to this cave that he said he had, but he goes with him and he's like he goes with him and somebody else, and it's from he's like been convicted paedophile and stuff. And the other one that he went with, that the editor wants to bring with him, Frank Joseph Collin, he'd been like in '76 organised a march, like a kind of a Nazi march as an anti-Semitic thing, you know. So it was like, well, there's a bit of a weird group of people to be going checking out these ancient artifacts. But they went down there. The guy says, "Oh, I need to pump some water out," so it does that for a while, and then you know, he tells him that it's not the same cave that I originally went to, so I don't want to show it to you. I want to like keep it secret still. Right. The second cave is going to be I've also some really, so that's what got some like better stuff, and it's already got a highly intelligent team of archaeologists working on the real cave already. Okay, this Burroughs guy says. So it's also, but it's weird, man. You can get these DVDs off this website about it from Ptonomy Productions. So I don't know. I'll put the links in. You can have a look. But that website with the DVDs and stuff is claiming that they've deciphered all the various symbols and languages exhibited on Burroughs as mysterious stone objects. But I think this might have been one of them psyopy things. But we'll see what I'll go into it a bit more. Because the thing is, there are lots of weird languages all over that area. There's the Decalogue stone, which, I mean, there's languages in this area of the Grand Canyon which are kind of like, you know, we've got. Oh, I provided an image of the Decalogue stone. Yeah, I'll get it up there. Or Google it. So yeah, there's different symbols and writings all over sort of Arizona that are like kind of look Hebrew and Egyptian, you know. And so it's like, well, what is all this? All in like Phoenician as well. So Phoenician, Egyptian, Hebrew type writings all over Colorado and Arizona. You know, there's an image of this. So yeah, I mean, it's weird. What is this? You've got these various languages, so it's people, you know, people have been getting around all over the world, civilizations, that's what it is, I think. And then, of course, the water level would have been much higher probably then, and it's probably why finding all these little caves and stuff, you know what I mean? Some of them don't make sense because they're probably grain stores. You're not necessarily living in all of them, keep your grain cool and things like that. So, yeah, and the Anasazi from that area as well, interesting enough, and the X-Files did an episode about the Anasazi. And they kind of made it look like the ancestral Pueblos, the Anasazi, made them look like in the X-Files episode they might be alien. But then they switched up the story and made it more like, oh, it's about smallpox and burning the last body, this body they discovered that triggers the episode. Oh, it's about smallpox and stuff. But that all happens just as Mulder's father's about to reveal all the secrets. And then he suddenly gets shot by Krychek, mortally wounded. So it's like, I don't know. Then if that's just a pop culture little teaser to make that episode stick in your head. But it was interesting. It's almost, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I just thought I was pretty strange. These sort of weird little links, the way they kind of jump in together. But I mean, it's weird though. But if you look at the area, I mean, if I looked at these maps, right, and I thought, okay, so I put an image on the screen. This little light blue area is like the lake, in the water in the area, okay. But the green area around it, the dark green area around this water on this image, that's where it would have been, I reckon, much higher back in the day, and a lot more water, okay. And Chaco Canyon that's got some structures there too, and some old civilization that's been there, and I think these they're probably all linked together. That's how I think it goes. Oh, sorry, I messed up the video. But yeah, let's put this one on. So yeah, in Chaco Canyon, there's some weird stuff there, and that's not that far away. Well, I mean, along the rivers it is far away, but if you draw a line down from the Grand Canyon northeast, and you go up towards Chaco Canyon, there's stuff there as well. And I think the rivers used to follow up there and used to go all the way up to Illinois. You know, and then the Missouri River's just up there as well. So I think that's the way it goes. So you're going from Arizona up through New Mexico, through Colorado, up through Kansas, up to Illinois, and I think that's like the path where all these tribes used to, you know, all the indigenous people used to like use a network. Because if you look where they are, you know, this bottom left corner, you got the Anasazi and the Apache, then up through the Kiowa, Cheyenne, and then you're going all the way up to the trade route where the Inuit is, and I think that's what it is, the trade hubs along the way, along the using the rivers to go all the way through. And I think we're talking like Joseph and kings of Egypt and stuff coming here, and that kind of, I think we're on that kind of tip. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I know it gets a bit sprawling all over the place, but it's that kind of stuff. Where, because there's stuff in the Bible about it. There's stuff like, because you've got the Decalogue stone with like Hebrew kind of stuff in there. You've got Phoenician, you've got Egyptian, you know, and so it's like you've got in the Bible stuff. It talks the distance. It says it was the distance in the Atlantis by Ohio River. That's what Joseph has 12 trips to Ophir, and and he used to grow grain at Ophir and mine gold at Ophir, both to bring back to Egypt. And it says that Aslan is at Ophir, and that's what's now known as the United States. And the Ohio is the Mississippi River. The Ohio River is the Mississippi River. So it's talking about that kind of in the Bible from the Egyptian perspective. So it was almost like it was a backup place to grow corn and gold, and then he let his ancestral descendants know where it was, you know, pass it down for the family. So you've got a secret kind of alpha site where you can get grain and gold from, do you know what I'm saying? Get your empire going, sort of thing. But it was another, so nice, pretty good. So there might be some links in with the Bible as well. But it gets stranger, man, because in that, I remember Billy Meier, famed UFO contactee, supposedly, from when he was a kid. Billy Meier is commonly named, his name's Edward Albert Meier, but yeah, Billy Meier. He made it into a religion now. So I used to say, I used to think it's maybe looking like a bit of a cult, but I think Billy Meier had some stuff when he was young, had a load of contacts, supposed to try to do some project with these aliens, and I think, you know, whatever. I think a lot of it might have been true, but then kind of just stopped, and then you might start sort of making stuff up. I don't know, but there's some valuable lessons and some cool stuff in there. So Billy Meier, so you could check that out. But I just want to make that point that I remember him saying that the aliens had told him, these Plejarans have told him that the Grand Canyon is shaped the way it is because there used to be there was an ancient battle there. They used disintegrating weapons, and, dramatically changes the landscape, obviously. So I remembered that. That sticks in my head as it was. It's a bit of an epic story. But then it turns out that the rocks in the area of the Grand Canyon, it says there's missing rocks. It's been a bit of a mystery for a long time. They think they might have figured it out somewhere or another, but it says, I've got this article here, it says mystery of the Grand Canyon's missing rocks may finally be solved. And what's it's saying is that there's more than 1 billion years worth of rocks have disappeared, and it's sort of saying that they've got the wrong temperatures. The kind of temperatures are all over the place. If you read through the article, it's talking about the temperatures just don't seem right, and they're all mismatched, and there seems to be loads of rock missing. So I'm thinking, well, if there's been war there with mega weapons, disintegrator weapons, then yeah, that might really screw up the readings a bit. But if you combine that to like Klingon laser disruptor stuff, it's a nonsensical reading. It kind of makes sense. But yeah, if you consider that as well, that does this discovery mean then? Does it lend a hint or offer some circumstantial evidence to ancient battles happening here, especially when you consider there's also evidence of ancient nuclear explosions in Jodhpur in India, and Harappa and Mohenjo-daro in Pakistan, and there's evidence of ancient nuclear explosions on Mars as well, and I'll put the links to that stuff in the description too. So I don't know, these ancient battles, these epics of like the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu epics in Sanskrit, and these ancient battles, man. Yeah, there was the famed, what was that, in Nuremberg? What was that one in Nuremberg? There was a celestial event in Nuremberg, and was it 15 something? But yeah, I don't know, man. Crazy. But it gets even stranger, believe it or not. It gets even weirder. It gets even weirder than there might have been some, all the Aztecs and all these tribes and that, they're using waterways and all linked together and those stuff, and linked in with Africa and Egypt and stuff, and trading and stuff. Yeah. And then they might have found some weird stuff involving possibly found some ancient like tech, and I don't know, man. There seems something weird about this because things are getting switched up, and I think the story's just got scrubbed from 1909. There's something significant, and like I say, the Kinnaman, Dr. Kinnaman as well, making those statements about the pyramids being 35,000 years old, and Atlanteans and anti-gravity devices. There's something going on. But what this also reminds me of is that there was the Wingmakers Story. It's supposed to be someone had found a cave in New Mexico that's supposed to have had these 23 chambers of artifacts containing paintings, poetry, music, philosophy, enigmatic technologies that the most powerful organizations cannot decipher or activate. And it's like, well, what's that? And I remember Al Bielek talking about this. Now, Al Bielek's another little side link, is also kind of a conspiracy thing, because he was central to the Montauk Project, and the Montauk Project is basically what Stranger Things is about, right? And Al Bielek was supposed to be on the ship where the Philadelphia experiment happened. That's another conspiracy thing, like sort of thing. So it's like, hang on a minute, if Al Bielek spoke about the Wingmakers, this might be what this is about. So so I thought, well, that's what we'll do. We'll put a little clip of Al Bielek on, and we'll just listen to what he says, because I thought just sort of finish up this show, because this Al Bielek stuff it says about Wingmakers, and the Wingmaker stuff's a bit weird, man. It's worth looking into. It's true or not, but yeah, it's definitely worth having a look at. See what you think about this Wingmakers, because it's a really, really weird kind of story. But it sounds quite fantastical, but then this kind of makes it look a bit more real. And these days, it's like all bets are off, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? Anything can happen these days. But yeah, right. Let's put this little clip on of Bielek speaking then. And we'll see what he's got to say about this Wingmakers thing. Because I think this might sort of be related to this sort of cave discoverer. So I'll just fade Bielek in and he'll start talking after a couple of minutes about the Wingmakers.
Now, and from what they told me also, yes, it is an experiment, but they do not know if it'll succeed. Because one of the problems which develops when you have pure socialism like that, which is working, and that everything seems to be running smoothly.
I've just got to point out that, sorry, he's talking from the perspective of a guy that he was on the Philadelphia experiment thing with a ship trying to make it invisible. It goes wrong, weird stuff happens with it, kind of jumps, teleports and comes back, but he gets catapulted out of time. So supposedly he ends up way in the future in like floating cities and that they're trying a social experiment. Okay, so that's why I just mentioned socialism, because he's talking about being in the future, but something in the future was called the Wingmakers as a group. So I just sort of keep you in the context of that. He has a Wingmakers group that he's talking about. He's talking as if he's in the future, if that makes sense, because he's talking about when he got pushed into the future and found out about the Wingmakers, and it turns out it might be about this discoverer. But anyway,
link-ups, and occasionally one would go bad, because I was there just before I left, for one had gone sour and it was removed at a later date, I believe. Now, some of you may have heard of the Wingmakers Group. It certainly has turned up on 20th century computers, 20th century runs, and a lot of data has been turned out, hundreds of pages in some of the manuals, describing the discovery of their stash in New Mexico in about 1974, in which the only thing they found, which was out of place for an 8th century AD Indian burial mound, or Indian burial of whatever, the item that was totally out of context was a compass. It resulted in NSA becoming involved with this, descending on the site, sealing it off, and looking to see if possibly what they were looking at was actually an alien type of installation, an alien crash or whatever. They did not ever find any evidence of aliens. In fact, they didn't find enough evidence to support any thesis. So they closed it down, and after an earthquake in about the year 1994 approximately, a wall disappeared due to the earthquake, and they had a tunnel, an artificial looking tunnel, which went to a circular staircase carved right in the rock, which was quite obviously artificial, and 23 rooms off that staircase in a long tunnel, all of which contained relics of some civilization that was advanced, paintings, and in the last room, the 23rd room, was a laser disc, an actual optical disc, much like what we have today, except the coding in it was such that it could not be decoded. Make a long story short, it took a year and a half of one of the experts there in languages, who knew 20 languages, and some ancient Sumerian, and somehow got the clues from the pictures on the walls, 23 rooms, 23 pictures, all paintings, and all in good shape. They finally cracked the optical disc, and they who had made the disc and left it there stated very clearly that they had left this stash in 800 AD approximately, 8th century, and there were 6 more like it around the earth, 7 total. The object was for man to dig these up when he got to the point where technically he could do it and understand what was there and learn their concerns about civilization. Well, one has been found. That was in New Mexico. There are 6 more. There are rumors that a second one has been found. But of course, the first one was totally under the control of NSA, National Security Agency. Underneath the basic organization was another one called ACIO, Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization. They are the ones who apparently pull all of the rare and exotic research involving finds which might look like aliens, but proved in this case not to be. It was a time travel operation. And that is the group which is set aside to do it, and there's a special group within ACIO known as the Wingmakers Group, which was working on this project and keeping it very, very secret. They identified the group that was as having come from the 28th century, originating in the 28th century. They called themselves the Wingmakers, which is what I remember. And they were interactive with this time period also. That is the 20th century into the 21st century. They did not give me any indication at the time when I was in the 20th century that they were interactive with the 20th century, but I got the distinct impression that I had not seen the last of them from the various things they said. I have not seen them since, I might add, not in any physical sense, unless it was by accident, because there was no communication, and it might have been an instance where I saw some of their people, 3 of them, in a men's health club on one Sunday afternoon in Atlanta about 2 years ago. No communication with anyone, not even communicating between themselves. The group was telepathic. And whether it was them or not, I don't know, but I have a suspicion. They were too genetically perfect to have been of this time and this era, so they could have been. But since then, the indications have been via the internet and that information which was dropped on the net, 2 interviews out of 5 that have been given by Dr. Anderson, a pseudonym, but one of the senior workers with the language capability to crack the optical disc, found an outside person to take some interviews, 5 in all, and translate them into a material which could be put on the internet. He wanted the material out. Well, 2 got out, and some other material, and that was the last I ever seen or heard of either Ann or Dr. Anderson. There's no answer at this point as to whether or not those 2 people are still alive or dead, what's happened to them, and the other 3 interviews have never appeared on the internet. There's enough that has appeared to make a very substantial story and a very substantial indications that these guys were not flakes. Their section on philosophy alone is enough to really stir one. And the pictures are very, very strange. According to those who found them, on the walls, they were still in very good condition and repairs. This is from the 8th century to the 20th century, which is 1,200 years. And there was very little deterioration, and for that matter, there's very little dust in the rooms. But they found some means to protect them further. I mean, the CIA does have some rather advanced technologies available to them, and NSA. And they made some further attempt to preserve the paintings. What they did, I don't know. But what is interesting is that the other stashes have yet to turn up. And they insisted from this one optical disc that there were 6 more. And when the time was right, they'd all be found. They were very concerned about the survival of humanity throughout this very critical period of history, meaning the 20th century into the 21st century. Now, in retrospect, looking back at them and the things they said, and what I now remember.
So there we have it then. They may well have found some kind of laser disc, deciphered it, and it turns out that, some ancient concerns about humanity. So by some ancient civilization. It might be a combination of people, ancient Egypt stuff 35,000 years ago. Possibly, no. There's a lot of tie-ins with this story. So I wondered if it was going to be like a nothing story to begin with until I looked into it, because I only heard little bits about this. So I deep dived into it, and it turns out there's loads of little links when you go and look. So this is why I always say, go and check this stuff out for yourself. And I always put the links in the description so you can have a look yourself. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show, folks. Exiled Minds Podcast with Liam Martin. And yeah, that's the end of this one. Episode 8. Not sure what the next one's going to be, but we'll see. I like to, just surprise myself. You take it easy, and I'll see you next time, my friends, on the Exiled Minds Podcast with Liam Martin.